If you have ever done calisthenics, you will realize this. All exercises are not created equal. Simply contrasting a push-up with a dip is a perfect example of this. Not all exercises are equally as difficult or hard to do, and this matters a lot. You could go to extremes and compare a simple push-up with a planche. Even if they are greatly different, you still get what I mean. This means that unless you add weight, you cannot make it more difficult than it is. Unless you fatigue yourself with previous sets or change some things of the exercise. Case in point, changing the length of your legs in a front lever. This is really interesting because it brings a contrast between two different things. High reps, light training, or in other words, high volume, and low reps, heavy training, or in other words, skill training. Because the exercise itself is limited in weight, we can quickly spot the difference. For example, doing 25 reps of push-ups in a single set versus doing 8 reps of handstand push-ups against the wall. Because we use almost all of our body weight in the handstand push-up, it is obviously harder, while the push-up uses support from our legs. Now, what is the point of this? You can really name calisthenics without your mind thinking about some few movements that honestly everyone would like to someday achieve, like the handstand push-up, the front lever, and the planche. Of course, calisthenics is any body weight exercise, but these are kinda like a heavy bench press for the weightlifter. It is something worth getting and achieving. Getting better at the handstand push-up implied that I had to train it more. As I trained it more, I realized that it was insanely hard to get to the 10 to 15 rep range, especially if you are starting in your body weight overhead strength. If you only do push-ups and dips, you will find pike push-ups intensely hard in the beginning, especially if you do it elbows in. It took me around a year and a half to go from 2 handstand push-ups on the floor to doing 13 reps. And during all that time, I realized that I was slacking off in everything that didn't take me 8 or 10 reps to reach failure or near it. I was getting comfortable. It is not the type of comfortability of staying on the couch while eating chips and watching some shows you like. It is more like the type of comfortability that will make you only do the things that you know how to do. You get what I mean? I got used to doing 8 reps in handstand push-ups, reaching failure, and calling it a day. Of course, that wasn't the whole workout, but this kind of training became a part of me. I got used to it. It transferred in everything despite it not making sense. I was doing 20 reps of push-ups per set while I could do 40, and I had to do 40 in my first set to reach failure. So why was I only doing 20 reps? I was training like that, and because I did focus a lot on my handstand push-up training, I progressed a lot on that, but at anything else, I was not going anywhere. That was like a whole year of training. I was doing dips, pull-ups, push-ups, and bodyweight rows at around 60% of what I could have done. I was training them like a sloth. My mind was playing with me. Because I got used to 8 reps to reach failure in handstand push-ups, my mind was telling me that 20 reps on push-ups was enough. It is 20 reps. That is a high number. That is a lot. But it wasn't. Push-ups are not heavy, so even 20 didn't get me close to failure. It was just slight discomfort. But my mind simply couldn't understand that. And it became a habit to not do a lot of reps because it seemed like a lot. Are 20 reps of push-ups really high rep training? If you use weightlifting standards of what is high reps and low reps, you will probably come to a fixed number. Let's say most gym goers will agree that anything beyond 15 reps is high rep or high volume training. Even most will say that you are doing young volume. And this makes sense because there is always the availability of increasing the load of the exercise, of progressive overload, of simply adding more weight. But this standard doesn't make sense in pure calisthenics. Classic progressive overload cannot be made without weight, so the standards don't really make sense in calisthenics when you can't increase the weight of the exercise. If you were to stay in a rep range of 12 reps in a bench press, those 12 reps can always be challenging. Why? Because you can always increase the load and you could theoretically always progress as you increase the load. But that is not the case with only body weight training. Is 20 reps of push-ups really high rep training? 20 reps means that you do something 20 times. But there are questions that haven't been answered. How difficult is the exercise? Can you make the exercise more difficult? The word high makes you think that it is enough. Erase that from your mind. If you think that 20 push-ups are enough, it may be if you are a beginner. But if you never go beyond that, you will never grow. It's like expecting to make any progress while not increasing the weights or reps that you do in a single exercise. There is a recipe for stagnation and lack of results. Even if you don't do high rep exercises, not reaching failure and getting comfortable is already a problem that may be in your training. It is easy to not push yourself and then you wonder why you are not growing or getting stronger. But this is way worse if you do high rep calisthenics. And yes, I was focusing on the handstand push-up, but that is not an excuse to not go hard on simple push-ups. It's not like they are heavy, or dips for example. And reaching failure with only around 6 to 8 handstand push-ups made me comfortable. It made my mind expect that only doing things 8 times was enough. But it wasn't for other exercises, so reach failure in push-ups, dips, pull-ups, bodyweight rows. Don't let the word high affect you, or numbers that go beyond 30 reps change how hard you go. If it's gonna take 50 reps, then do them. Rest 1 minute. Even if you reach 50 reps in your first set, once you go to your second set after resting 1 minute, you are not even going to reach 35 reps, and this is going to compound. So as you go past your first set, you won't need to do that many reps to reach failure, as fatigue comes because you have reached failure before. I think that it is also fair to say that reaching mechanical failure through high rep exercises, in push-ups for example, is far more straining psychologically than doing heavy low repetition exercises. At least that is my experience when reaching failure on handstand push-ups against the wall compared to standard push-ups.